Steven likes a really tight music team, so it was just me and him and Steven Remus. When Steven Schwartz decided that I should also be the band, like the drums, piano, guitar, and bass, then it was like a lot of responsibility.
Did you feel the pressure of the fans who love the musical when you were working on the music? And did you go, oh my God, we have to get this right? Or did you feel isolated that if I'm feeling good, this is all that matters?
Oh no, 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 no. Well, I mean, I had to plug into that feeling. As a music maker, I think we all have to, like, you have to trust your own instincts, or you kind of have no idea how to begin making the food. But absolutely, I did not want to be labeled for all time as the guy that fucking wrecked it. You know what I mean? Like, uh, and I've seen it many times live, and I love it, and I love, I've worked with Idina Menzel. I produced many tracks on her last solo record, um, and I've been friends with Steven Schwartz since I was 21 years old. We'd never worked together prior to this, but I really didn't want to. Steven likes a really tight music team, so it was just me and him and Steven Remus as the primary kind of. I mean, there were a lot of other people helping us, but in terms of the decision making, um, music folks, it was just the three of us. And um, when Steven Schwartz decided that I should also be the band, like the drums, piano, guitar, and bass, then it was like a lot of responsibility on me, and I definitely felt the heat of that. Um, I'm not
I
sure if
want
I'm
I want to
answering.
ask you about that because you're known for being such a great player, but you easily could have pulled in other great players to play drums, piano, bass, guitar, and then you could have had more of a producing role, or you could have played even half those instruments. Why did it feel like the best thing was to have you play all the instruments from a creative standpoint?
It wasn't my idea. In fact, I was hired to. My job description was to play nothing and to only be the producer and the mixer of for the songs. That's what I signed up for. That's what I got paid for. Um,
Were you underpaid on this project for not play for playing all the instruments?
I won't really. I won't say I was underpaid or overpaid. I will say that I didn't get paid any extra once, last February, when Steven Schwartz announced in a Zoom, and he was probably thinking it the whole time. But I just think it was probably a lapse, maybe, in communication between the executives at Universal, who were the people that officially, like Steven Schwartz didn't cut my deal. He creatively hired me, but the people that did the deal assumed that we'd be hiring London studio musicians because that's where we're recording the orchestra, and that's typically what they do on most films that they work on. But I think that maybe I'm just surmising, but I think Stephen has been to my studio several times over the years, and he's watched me go from, like, being, I moved here as a piano student on a Canadian government scholarship. That's when I met him. And he's watched me go from having absolutely nothing going on to, like, a tiny bit of a career to a bit more of a career. And he's met some of the artists I've worked on, and a lot of those records, not all of them, but a lot of them, I wound up being the band because a lot of those productions were born out of songwriting sessions when there's no budget. As a songwriter, I don't get paid to show up on a songwriting session, but I have a studio where all these instruments are set up. And growing up in Canada, I was in a wheelchair for a couple of years as a young. I was like from 11 to 13. So sports were out of the question after that. And I was already obsessed with music, and I just kind of whatever I could get my hands on. But by the way, I never even knew if I was good or not, and I was never told if I was good or not. That didn't matter. I was just obsessed with music, and no one around me did music. Um, so that made it even more exotic. And I would just kind of try to learn anything that was around. And it wasn't until I left my hometown that I realized I actually wasn't terrible at it. And and in fact, all that time kind of in my bedroom and joining whatever band I could in my hometown was fantastic practice for what became my career. And so it led to those songwriting sessions led to my career as a record producer. And I guess that's how Stephen Schwartz possibly perceived me and probably perceived my role coming into this. Uh, yeah, it was a bit, I mean, Stephen Aremus and I were like, oh, I see. I remember texting him after that Zoom going, I think my workload just quadrupled, which it did. And, the little boy in me was like, wow, I'm going to get to drum on Defying Gravity. And, and you know, the 55-year-old in me was like, oh shit, how are we going to get this done for the orchestral dates, which we cannot move, June 1st at Air Studios? Like, we got to be done. All the rhythm section tracks have got to be finished. It was hilarious and not hilarious pressure. I have a whole bunch of kids, and I wasn't, I was working 7 hours, 7 days a week, 20, it felt like 24 hours a day. I hardly saw my family for a long time, but everyone kind of got it. And I think when you see the film, I think you also see the work that everybody put into it. It's really jam packed, and Wicked, as you know, because you played on it. You've seen those charts. So, like, it's not easy music. It's hard. It's really challenging. Um and as you said before, we, not just me, but like everybody involved, from the two leads, Cynthia and Ariana, to everybody behind the scenes, we all felt like we cannot wreck this. We have to knock this so far out of the park uh without being unfaithful to what's just amazing about it, but we also want to make it cinematic at the same time.